energy transition and the smart equipment, that we have, fastest transition in history, faster than smartphones and the internet. So imagine how much that changed all of our lives. So, and this one's going to be the fastest one in the history.
Yeah.
So we're buckle up, like here we go. Erin.
Hi, hey everybody. I'm Erin Kempster with Energy Solutions. We're primarily a program implementer, and so we implement some of the incentive-based programs within Colorado on behalf of the investor and utilities. So trying to get a pulse on what folks are thinking and how everything's working, and to understand how folks are interpreting the new statutes and legislation that are coming down the pike. So glad to be here.
Great. Pete?
Hi, everybody. I'm Pete Perret. I'm with Gustav Larson. I'm here primarily because I care about what you guys are going through as a contractor. Trying to understand all that stuff and understand where you're at. And I'm also a co-chair on the distributor and manufacturer side. So really interested to just understand what you guys are going through and see how I can help.
Awesome. Bill? Lucas Brown.
Hi, Patricia. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Lucas Brown. I started actually building straw bale homes like 25 years ago down in the Alamosa, San Luis Valley, working with Habitat for Humanity. And so I got into high performance buildings, and I've been in it ever since. Owned a home performance company called GB3 Energy. Worked in the Denver area for 15 years. And then just recently we got some venture capital funding to start a new home electrification company called Helio Home. And so we're trying to be a one-stop shop, make it really easy for people to switch off of fossil fuels and get onto just to electrify their lives. That's kind of our tagline, is electrify your life. And so we swap out existing gas appliances for heat pumps of different varieties, different shapes and sizes. Typically we do insulation and air sealing improvements as a part of that. If they need that, we capture some of the low-hanging fruit. We're not doing deep energy retrofits. Our biggest focus is just kind of reducing carbon footprint and trying to get on renewable electricity. And then we install an electric vehicle charger as part of that as well. So we're kind of future-proofing the house so that in the future it can take advantage of all this cleaner, renewable sourced energy that's going to be coming off of the grid, and ideally solar. And so we do solar as well. Some people that works for them, some it doesn't, but even if it doesn't, man, we're going. I never thought we'd be over 50% in Excel territory, and we're already there, and we keep going more and more. And so electricity, it's back to the future. I mean, I had a conversation with the gal this morning walking into work, and she's like, electricity is so dirty, it's so expensive. And I'm like, no, not anymore. And there's just a lot of information that needs to filter down into the people. And once they start seeing the numbers, I think it's going to be a big change. And I don't know if any of you all drive electric cars yet, but man, it's amazing. These cars, these heat pumps, it's awesome technology. We're not giving anything up, I'll tell you that much.
Awesome. Yeah, we've known each other about 15 years.
Yeah, we actually insulated one of your houses back in the day, Patricia.
I know. That's so funny. That's awesome. When I was fixing and flipping them. Wow. Awesome.
Patricia, the fix and flipper.
Yeah, I was doing it on
the side.
You
had a TV show at one time, right?
No. No, when I worked at Owens Corning, right? Insulation, air sealing, and building science, and building net zero homes, and I was flipping houses on the side.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, on mute there. Matt Baker with Daikin Comfort Technologies, heat pump manufacturer, and I'm really here just to advocate for the advancement and adoption of high-performing variable capacity heat pumps.
Great. And Rebecca is with the EBC. She's taking notes for us today. And I don't know if you want to introduce yourself or not, and didn't tell you we would do that. I put you on the spot.
Oh, it's on my face. I've been actually involved in this world for probably 15 years now. I edited a magazine called Smart Energy Living back in the day, and worked with early energy efficiency folks then. I was in the solar industry. Now I work with policy on Colorado Renewable Energy Society. I edit a newsletter for New Energy Colorado that is having a big solstice party you're all invited to on the 21st, and working with Patricia on exactly as Bill just said, trying to get the word out, trying to kind of translate some of the technology to real people.
Exactly. Great, thanks. And Chris.
I'm with ClearResult, and I run Excel Energy's quality assurance program, and I do all their contract management. I mean, along with Anchor Patrick, of course. I don't do all of it, but I do a fair amount of the interaction, especially with the installation air sealing contractors and the auditors in the program. And I'm always wanting to listen in and hear what's going on with the different contractors in this sector. And I'm particularly interested in the electrification and heat pumps, mini splits, that sort of thing.
Awesome. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So I'm just moving some things around here. Right. Can you guys see my screen?
Can you make it full screen, Patricia?
Yeah, there is some strange setting that's happening that I have to figure out how to get fixed. I'll definitely go full screen, but it will, for some reason, put the subtitle. It didn't do it. Great. Okay. Literally, as I talk, it would be doing subtitles at the bottom of the screen. Oh, there it goes. Okay, never mind. It is there. Hopefully, it's not distracting. I put this quote up here just first for us to think about as contractors and working with the homeowners. And I think from the utilities perspective of in creating rebates. And these are some of the things that I think our group comes up with. So I just think this is fascinating. This was a post that was from a presentation by Frollard. But they were talking about in the country of, I believe it was, England. And the utilities had created insulation and air sealing rebates, incentives, and no one was really using them. The homeowners weren't taking advantage of them. And when they really dug into like the pain points of insulating the old houses and what the problem was, they were offering them, cheap free installation, but they were in their homes, the attics were used as storage. So the homeowners were not taking advantage of insulating air sealing because they didn't want to take the time to clean out their attics. And I think there's some of that going on with electrification here, right? With heat pumps and induction stoves and those types of things. But the point is when they offered them free attic cleanings with an insulation air sealing, they ended up selling out all of their insulation air sealing dollars. Like the homeowners took advantage of it. So the quote on here that I thought was funny is that, if you, instead of paying insulation, they started offering attic cleaning out services plus insulation, and suddenly the adoption skyrocketed. If someone offered me nebulous future utility savings, but I had to do physical work, I probably would pass. But if they offered me to clean my house and give me nebulous savings, I'd be on board. So I think that's part of the looking at where the barriers are for you guys as contractors and finding out what is going to get the homeowner to take advantage of it. And I don't know if anybody found that as amusing as I did, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, for us to be thinking about as a group and informing Excel. So next, I want to just let you know the resources that we talk about. We have on the EEBC website. We have links in here that we go through and list after every meeting. We'll load the PowerPoint and the links to documents and like the rebate forms and those types of things. So I just wanted to put these links into our library for you there. We do have listed here Sean Lamons and Pete Perret from GA Larson. Sean Lamons from Mitsubishi are the co-chairs for our manufacturer and distributor heat pump action group that are working on some bigger things that we'll talk about to help you guys. And then still looking to get my heat pump contractor 2 co-chairs to help guide our agendas and what we talk about. And before we jump in a little bit further, just a reminder, EBC, we're a trade organization of all types of companies and organizations that are supply chain for energy efficiency products and services, and that we follow the antitrust law, which is basically saying we don't have no collusion on pricing and territories and those types of things. Just legally, we always like to mention that at the beginning. And so the first topic I have on our list is the code jurisdiction tracking spreadsheet. Okay, I'm just making sure I had the right thing. So we've had a couple, Matt Baker on the phone has asked for this, and when they were working with their distributor, the distributors wanted to have a location that they could go and look for all of the utilities that are offered by and these cities that are doing add-on rebates for heat pumps. And there's a website called loveelectric.org. And that was created by a group called the Beneficial Electrification League, EBC, we're on the board there. And so that Love Electric website is something that you as contractors can use with your homeowners who are interested in getting a heat pump or induction stoves or electrifying their homes. And it's a neutral parties for the Beneficial Electrification League of Colorado is made up of Xcel Energy, Platte River Power Authority, all the 4 utilities up north, Fort Collins, Longmont, and Loveland and them, and then also Tri-State, which has 17 utilities that are co-ops typically, and then also Holy Cross is in that group, and then the city of Denver, the city of Boulder, and then there's a lot of other stakeholders. So the point is, they created this website as a resource for you guys in the field, and there is a button in there for homeowner or a contractor. You could go in and select any utility in the state, and it'll tell you the rebates for heat pumps that are available. And then also it'll say that like the city of Boulder has an add-on rebate. And so what was the request that we had from our members, from our distributors, actually for you guys, saying, can you put all of that information in a spreadsheet so that they can give it to you guys as contractors, so you could have one place that you could go look at any utility at any time. And the other request we had was to add on the, I think Pete, you may have asked for that, when you said add on the requirements as well. So the spreadsheet lists, here's the utility, here's the heat pump rebates available, and then here are the requirements for installing and getting the rebates. So that document we're finishing up, and we'll have that loaded on our website for you, and ask if you hear a change anywhere. We'll, as a group, keep that updated for each other. So that's one tool that we're putting together. And then also heat pump rebates. Oh, the code jurisdiction tracking spreadsheet. So I'm here on this first button there. And that is, I don't know if you guys know, but Colorado Energy Office also tracks all, is what, 50, close to 50 utilities in Colorado. And, and then there are what, 330 cities and county jurisdictions with codes. So they actually provide a same thing, a spreadsheet, and they track all the different jurisdictions and what their code levels are. So are you guys interested in both of those? Because I've not pulled the jurisdiction one, but that actually is on Colorado Energy Office's website. So
yes, anything that makes rebates easier for clients is helpful.
Okay. Great.
any kind of tools that makes it easier for the techs to discuss or salespeople. It's
Yeah, so they can have it at their fingertips and they're not having to go search around.
if you
So
want
those,
to talk about barriers to entry, understanding the 8 different places that you can get rebates from, that is huge for people.
you said the 8 different places to get rebates.
I may be exaggerating.
Um,
Right, but it's like with Boulder, so you have Excel and then you have the city and county of Boulder, and then there's tax incentives, and it's just all the different levels of everything. It becomes overwhelming for people.
So that if you were to prioritize for us as EBC to pull those things together, are those 2 that you're like, yes, spend the time on those, we will use them? Okay, that's the kind of thing that we need to know, like what's important to you and what you need the most. So, and I think that is probably not exaggeration where you're like, the city has a rebate, the county has a rebate, the utility, and there's 2 utilities, right, in that market. And then there's, so that's the idea of those 2 documents. So we will continue to pull those together for you guys and make those available, that you can just pull the link and put it into your own, documents, or, always go to our website, it'll be there. And that's where we'll keep it updated for you. All right, cool. So next thing that I have, so we're going to talk about the hiring pipeline that we want you to have access to. There's some information about heat pumps and the eligibility for rebates that your manufacturers and distributors are working on that involves the EAR and the HSPF levels. Might be information you're not terribly interested in as contractors, but I think it's important to, like, you guys will, that again is rebate information, right? So, and then the forecasting work to get you the resources that you need to sell and to install, and distributor support. And the last item is basically where EBC, we work to improve rebates with the utilities for you guys so that they actually help you move equipment.
The biggest challenge is getting the right stuff to meet those criteria, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, and any tool, that's kind of why we're working on that, is try to get those tools into your hands so that you guys can pick it and be comfortable it's going to make it, and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. So what the distributors and manufacturers, mostly the manufacturers, have been working on is Excel, because they are requiring this EAR where you see this 11.5. So they're reducing this. So there's SEER, EAR, and HSPF, but the EAR, they're dropping down to that 11.5 they already did. And the HSPF for cold climates, they've dropped that as well. So the goal is basically a lot of your cold climate heat pumps are not eligible because they're variable speed for the rebates. And so the manufacturers, we've been going in and talking to Excel to get them to lower these so that all of the manufacturer heat pumps and cold climate heat pumps are eligible for the rebates. And that kind of goes back to that form, right? And knowing which ones are eligible and which are not, that you're going to be installing. And so they basically went through a process and responded to, we put a joint letter together from 6 of our manufacturers. Yeah, they're at the bottom there. And also City of Denver and Boulder chimed in, and we all said, okay, great. You just move the EAR. Now that's made maybe a quarter or half of our heat pumps eligible for rebates, but we need you to remove that completely so that we can have all of them be eligible. That's one of the things that the group's working on for you guys. Any questions? Does that make sense? But I think it's important for you guys to know when you're looking at picking your heat pump that you're going to install, you want it to be eligible for the rebates, or you might say the rebates are the heat pump is the cold climate heat pump rebate. Even with the rebate is more expensive, I'm going to drop down to a mid-tier heat pump, and you're going to install that because it's less expensive without the rebate. That's what's been happening, I think, Pete. that you guys are frustrated with. I know like one of the manufacturers said the rebates are still for the rich for heat pumps if you don't get that fixed. So I don't know, Bill, if you run into any of that in your heat pump selection.
Absolutely. A lot of the cold climate heat pumps they're kind of optimized to produce heat in a cold climate, and
Right.
EER doesn't really measure that number. So Excel is always skewed towards air conditioning, but that's not the point of a heat pump. So yeah, everything we install more often than not doesn't meet the Excel standard, but now that they're switching over to the NEEP standards and whatnot, we can get them the rebates, and Denver as well. So I'm glad they finally, after 15 years, made the change.
Well, you can thank your manufacturers for that, because we did a lot of work and held meetings with them.
I just want to thank you, Trisha.
You're welcome. But it's really them that's doing the work. But the next step is, and if you guys have feedback, further feedback, the next step is we're continuing a working group with manufacturers in Excel to remove ears so that all the heat pump equipment is available. That's our next step. So we might need contractors to give some testimonials on that, or give us some feedback on how limiting it is for you guys to use their rebates in the future as we go forward. But so we're hoping that we will have that negotiated by the 2024-25 DSM, the demand side management, the rebate plan. It won't make it right now. It's just that smaller move that'll be in 2023's rebate plan that's going to be filed in July and finalized for next year. And it's just an extension of 2022's current rebates. I think, Jason, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning. So we do have links in here for you for both Excel's full rebate list, a summary, and then also the Denver climate action rebates that I think they're already making changes to. We'll have to get those. We had that conversation about the things that you would change about them for the contractors. And the main thing we said, put the $9 million instead of putting $3 million a year with having a deadline sometime in the year. We were like, the manufacturers, again, we put together and said, and the distributors said, you should put the full 9 million in and see how long it takes for you to run out, right? And let it run so that the contractors don't say, I'm going to install 2 heat pumps and then I'm going to wait and see because I don't want to get, left with a $9,000 rebate that I can't get from Excel. So that was one of the things we talked about. We also said it'd be helpful if you would call out that you can really replace an AC unit with the heat pump with this rebate. Also talked about tiering the rebates as well with Denver. I think those are the ones that I remember the most. I don't know if Pete, if you remember anything else.
No, I think that's pretty much, I mean, those are all the thing, and just getting it so it's simple. So.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I heard too is to not have, because of the ear score, right? Because half the equipment's not, eligible, right. And then have it not depend on Excel's approval process. So it opens it up that they could, if they can't get Excel to cover a certain heat pump, that the Denver rebate still will.
Yeah.
So that was the other request, I think. Any additional things that you would want to let Denver know about the rebates? Or is that a summary that's accurate?
There's just a big gray area, on this up to max, there's that gray area. Okay. One of the other things we know is like with our Bryant product, they don't have anything in town currently that we can actually sell that hits all the criteria because of the shortage of equipment. I am going to a training next week with them over their interface where we can actually use a mini split condenser on a standard furnace. Then we will be able to get people the rebates, but that's probably the biggest thing right now is just supply chain issues still.
So the mini split, I think I had somebody talk about why are the mini splits not rebated to the full level of the heat pumps? That's the one, Pete, that you had mentioned before. So
Yep.
that would be an example, I think, that you're saying because of supply chain issues, they should up that rebate for mini split so it's equal. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Is that
I mean, the
helpful?
criteria is the criteria, right? I mean,
Right,
if it meets it, it meets it.
right. So is that helpful for you, Jason, like you're saying, to be able to rebate at a higher amount like you can for,
Well, it's like I said, we just got on the program with them. We've done 2 estimates so far with customers over the Denver rebate stuff. So there's just, like I said, there's a lot of gray area. We don't know right now how it's going to proceed. We know how we're going to do it as a company with these customers until we actually see one go through and see whether it goes great or if it goes super sideways.
right?
So that's,
Would it be helpful for contractors? Would you want us to have them come and talk to our group about the rebates and get more clarifications
yeah.
instead of it waiting till they do that with a gigantic group? Like, can they come talk to us? Because I feel like we're more of the higher performance, like the better contractors. You guys are more of the first movers in the market versus the ones that are not interested in heat pumps anyway. Would that be helpful? Like,
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, you would come. Okay,
Yeah, I think so too.
really? All right.
Like that. I'd like to be prepared for it when it rolls out instead of kind of finding out about it later.
Right. Okay.
And they haven't been real quick to update their contractor information. So they finally updated their list 3
Okay.
days ago. But I've been trying to get on this list for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I'm a little cranky that we're not on there again now that I'm looking at it when we're Excel contractors and Energy Smart contractors, and so a little cranky about that. I'll send them another note.
That's the kind of feedback we need to know. It's like, if you want us to use the incentives, you have to be responsive,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, okay, so I'm a really good contractor. I'm on Excel's list, and did you say Energy Smart list? And
And renew contractors, and I've been putting it out in our social media, and
Right.
yet I'm not on the list, and I'm watching all these competitors get heat pump water heater business.
yeah, got it. Okay.
One thing that I might add to this, and this is going to take it in a little bit of a new direction that I'm thinking most people haven't thought about before, but I'm just going to put it out there. And I don't expect anyone to talk about it necessarily right now, but when we talk about performance, we're looking at, how many BTUs do we get out at what temperature given what input of energy, and it comes up with all these numbers. But when we talk about performance, we should also really be talking about how much noise does this thing produce. And that's one of the reasons I have moved away from some of the pretty big name manufacturers towards other big name manufacturers, because they are 20 decibels louder often, and we will install $20,000-$30,000 systems, and on a cold January morning that thing's screaming like a banshee and the whole neighborhood's mad. That gives heat pumps a bad name, and I'd like this to be adopted more. I mean, if electric cars sounded like a Harley, a lot of people would probably love it, but a lot of people would really hate it. And you don't want your equipment that's heating your house to be loud. And some of this stuff is just orders of magnitudes louder, but that still meets the other performance criteria. So again, that's out there. But that if we're talking about it, performance, I think we should think about including that, because a lot of unhappy customers come back and say, I had no idea it was going to be so loud.
I will second that. I literally had a conversation this week with somebody who's building 46 green homes, and she wanted to know what the decibel levels were for the water heater.
Wow.
So
I've actually had to replace
consideration.
a number of fans on the early Rheem water heaters because they were putting out 60 plus decibels, 60, 65 decibels, and they should be below 50. And Rheem knew it, because they'd send me a new fan motor without question. But that's inside the house on the heat pump water heaters, which is, man, it's significant. You're not used to your water heater going, "Brrr," and you're certainly not used to hearing a condenser outside your window on a beautiful, pristine snowy morning that's screaming. And so something that we should talk about maybe more in the future.
So I'm going to put that like in the category of cleaning out your attic to get insulation air sealing, right? It's kind of like I'm really looking at the real barriers. The Build Back Better group for Marshall Fires, they were talking about getting homeowners to take the induction stoves, and they still want the gas line in just for their fireplace to be gas, and everything else electric. And it's funny because I was like, well, maybe you should get a rebate from Colorado Energy office to install the induction stove for free. And they would go all electric. You know what I mean? They were like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, there's $50 million sitting there that the Colorado Energy office has to figure out what to do with them. So that idea, Bill, that you guys are talking about is there things you can do to mitigate the sound if it's going to be louder, or like you're literally changing out equipment so it won't be louder?
So it's equipment typically. I mean, you can always do some sound proofing, but the difference between a 50 and a 70 decibel compressor is hard to hide with a lattice.
Right. So cool. I record all these things, right? Because I think there's a place for those conversations usually somewhere.
Yeah. Ultimately, I want everyone to have a heat pump or a home so efficient that it doesn't even need one, and they can just heat it with an electric toaster if they want to. But and that's the most important thing. But being involved early with Xcel Energy on the energy efficiency and the air sealing stuff, we made a lot of homes unhealthy because we sealed them up and we weren't doing proper CAS testing. And I had to follow, really sad cases, and where we gave energy efficiency a black eye. And, it's being relatively early adopters. I think we have to be aware that this needs to be, it's got to be a Tesla. You may not love Tesla, but it goes far and it's fast and it's relatively safe. It doesn't have a 50-mile range. And so the stuff that we're installing needs to perform, and it needs to perform in many categories so that people will say, oh, that's a pretty cool car. Or just to conceive and think about that. And it's ultimately important, I think, to make the product that we're delivering something that people are happy with and proud of and can really get behind.
Right. No, great points. Anything else on the Denver Xcel rebates before we go to the next topic? Before we go into this, just want to see what I had next. I'm leaving this slide up here, but I don't want to miss talking about one of the key values that I've been working on, making sure that we address the other problem that you guys have as contractors, which is labor and getting good workers, which kills you to grow, right? And I gotta say, it's like the top problem for the contractors. So EBC, we started a hiring pipeline project. So we got funding from the city of Denver. So this is for contractors who are working in the Denver city and county area. That if a heat pump contractor is a member of the EBC, an action group like this. So as members, you're in this action group for the contractor dealers, right? And we've gotten funding to help recruit workers. They go through two different pathways. One is an orientation training, which is online. And the other is then you can go to an advanced training, which is to become a heat pump technician. And that's through a company called Hvac that's a member of the EBC. And the graduates of the heat pump technician certification program will also, when they get hired on by a dealer contractor, they will have a mentor who will come and install with the employee that you hire. We have to decide what the number is, 3, 4, 5 heat pumps. And that means that, so when you hire somebody, then you're going to get a mentor or a shadowing person to go out with them. So you might have your own trainers as well. And we have to figure out how that would work. But the point is, they have to recruit 4,000 people into the orientation. The orientation includes commercial lighting. It's all the ABC contractors. So it's lighting, it's insulation, air sealing. It's going to be an HVAC are their focus that we're using. So to get your feedback really quick, I wanted to find out a couple quick things because we're developing the curriculum right now, and it's going to be a 3-year program. I think we'll start placing, you get basically as a contractor in a working group at EBC, you get first right of refusal to all the grads. So you're the first companies that get to interview them, look at them, and say, do I want to hire this person? We hope that it creates more retention because we're going to talk about educate them on the realities in the field as well. Not this, it sounds cool, but it's not always like, lighting's not the cleanest job, and neither is insulating, air sealing. It's hot, cold, those types of things that we all deal with. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited that we're trying to figure out how to bring you better workers, not just a warm body. And I think from the heat pump side, all 3 of your companies, then you're able to have access to those those technicians, heat pump technicians. So the funding is also we got funding from the department, the DOE is funding this department. And then also City of Denver and EBC, we are the only organization who is placing all those grads in our companies that are members. So any feedback on that? Does that make you excited to be in the working group? Is my question. Yeah.
Are you going to be going after, say, like Pickett's Tech graduates, any of the other tech schools? You're going to go after those to bring into your program right away? Or are you just looking for people, anybody off the street?
Both. So Julius Education, they're the recruitment piece of this, and they're actually out of Boston, and they've been doing this for a while. And then the other is ICAST is doing the training as well. So they're going to be going everything from kids going into the trades, kids getting their GEDs to, trade school kind of stuff too, as well. So they're really, and people want to be upskilled or they want to transition and maybe move from a code company to a high performance contractor. That's going to be an angle that we're going to talk to them about as well. The key thing that they need to know is and maybe we do a separate little meeting, but what are the skills? So I think there's 2 things. What is the aptitude in the behavioral, like the kind of person, like work ethic that you want is almost sometimes better than somebody who may be skilled, but doesn't show up to work all the time. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it has common sense. Right. And so
what's that?
I know. So we're looking to find out, what are you looking for in your hires? Because that we want to work into the curriculum so that it fits your industry specifically. And then also, what types of jobs are you hiring for? So we can create the orientations and the trainings around those positions that you have. So we really want to create this type loop, right? So that you might hire people, you might have, say you hire a couple of people a month, you might say, okay, for the first 2 weeks, we're going to send you out in the field and maybe, work with somebody and have you experience it. You also might say, and we're going to put you through this orientation program at the same time, and they have to do the modules like for those first 2 weeks so that you get more reality, put into, what to expect and what a career path could be in this job to motivate them and stay. So those are the 2 things. What do you want in the curriculum and what types of jobs would you want to hire for? So I don't know if you want to throw anything out right now really quick, or I know I need to look at the time. Yeah, we don't have much time. Do you want me to schedule or just have a conversation with you? I can have Julius call you and and ask you those questions, and you can just pop it off so you don't have to write something or take time. You can just have a call with them. What would you prefer?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. My new position is basically, I'm going to be building an in-lab training center.
Okay.
And with the advancement that we have with the teletech, what I'm trying to look at doing is building a 5-week training program to be able to send the guy out to be able to do service. Now we're going to be looking for installers because we just purchased another company as well. So our company just doubled in size basically overnight anyhow, but we still have needs for our original company as far as service techs, installers, and apprentices.
So service techs, installers, and what else? Sorry.
And apprentices.
Apprentices. Is that kind of the path in terms of skills that they go through? Those three positions, or would you just put somebody directly in them?
Well, with the apprentices, we'll pair them up with either a lead installer or lead service tech. But what we just came back from a big meeting in Texas last week or 2 weeks ago, actually. So we're actually going to model off of some companies that have expanded extraordinarily over the course of the last 5 years by doing the same thing. They built their own in-house training, as well as trying to bring in some people that have been like in an automotive and moving them over into HVAC where they're already mechanically inclined. Those are the types of people that we're trying to go after.
So I think that's the other thing that they wanted to know is, are there certain industries where the skills are more transferable that you would want them to focus on recruiting for?
Yeah.
So that would be a good example, like you said, automotive.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're up for that conversation, that would be helpful. You might then say, oh, you're doing 3 things that you could utilize their resources for free. And so the training pieces, incorporate that in there so that, maybe brings more to it for you guys. That's something that they would want to understand.
And I think it's really going to be the wave of the future for any company out there that want to basically put forth money and time to make sure that in the long haul, they're going to have people working for them.
Yes. I can tell you, I worked when I left Owens Corning for the first 2 years, I worked with 5 installation companies, and we figured out what their turnover rate was, which is the killer, because installation we had a 65+ turnover rate. And so how do you hire right the first time, and how do you train them, onboard them better, and then retain them better? And we were using, I'm going off tangent a little bit, but it's a super cool thing to talk about maybe later. But we were using 2 assessments when we hired them. One was a behavioral assessment to figure out how they're wired, and if they were close to the job, close to the zone, in the zone, or out of the zone to be an installer. Because we had a profile, like we knew the difference between a gutter person, a bat, or a spray foam, so they had different profiles of how they work. And then the other piece is a common sense test. And so that was, I feel like we could spend like a whole couple hours and like get together and do an overview of like these whole hiring ideas that we don't really use in our industry, but it's used in others, to help you, fix that. So anyway, that's good. So should I just give them your bill, Andrea and Jason? Should I give Julius the number to call you and ask those questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Fine with
fine.
it. I posted in chat too.
Oh,
kind of
perfect.
Just gently some of the things that we consider.
Okay.
But in terms of assessments, we do
Yeah.
pretty well using Indeed. And they have assessments on there. So we actually look to those pretty frequently.
We use the Indeed too. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
You get somebody who's like, I've got 20 years experience, and then they get like an F on their trade one. And it's like, proceed gently.
Right. That makes sense. So, okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. So last thing here, I just wanted to run through so you know that this is happening. This is the part of putting wind in your sails on the heat pump side, is that the manufacturers and distributors are working on, so this forecast here that you see, they call it the hockey stick growth pattern for a new company or new product launch. And there's this inflection point on the hockey stick where the things are coming together in the market, like the consumers know about heat pumps and are asking for them, and the supply chain's working and all the things that happen. The rebates are there, that you start to get year over year growth. And what they're looking at is, what will it take to get to the 2030 goals that the state, the greenhouse gas plan, the legislation that's gone through, the utilities, we're going to be 80%, 85% electric grids by 2030 and carbon-free grids, those types of things. And so we're working on true numbers of what that would look like in terms of the year-over-year increase. And it's looking like anywhere so these are Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, and California's projections for heat pump installs by 2030, based on the amount of not employees, per capita, how many people and how many heat pumps would be installed. So the point is, it's looking like somewhere between 10 to 25% increase in sales year after year. And you guys are sometimes seeing like 35%. I've heard some in like 100% increase we've seen in the last 2 years in the marketplace with COVID. So the point is, we're looking for things to get you the rebates, tax credits, the things that you would need to increase your sales. And then like back to the basics, right? We just need a tool to find all the rebate information as well. And then what kind of training you guys need. So we're going to be asking cities and utilities to step up based on what you guys need. And that's what this group is for. I don't know, Pete and Matt, do you want to add anything to that? I wanted you to know that's happening, and that's what we have a separate group of the manufacturers and distributors working on these big things that you need. And so we want you to be able to say, hey, if we did this, I could increase my business. Or I think, your workers is one of the things that you need. I know that from my experience. So that's why we're working to develop that for you guys too.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, that's kind of why I think we're here, is to try and understand what those things are and what you guys are dealing with, and work as a group to make things better for everybody, so we can accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish.
Yeah. No,
So
Matt,
any input would be fantastic.
so we'll be putting stuff in front of you guys and go, okay, is this what you need? Or you might say, we need this, right? And so then we'll go, okay, let's figure out how to get the state to do a statewide media campaign. The switch is on when you're going to switch out your heat pump, or when you switch out your gas furnace, you should be thinking about a heat pump. Things like that is like, okay, how do we get the right incentives in place and make them easier for you to use? So our next meeting is scheduled for July. And we always have, this meeting is the third Thursday of the month.
Will be out of town, but what I really appreciate are when meetings happen like this and then link is sent out later so that I can just watch it when it's
Oh, good.
convenient. I love that.
Oh, good. So we did record today. So that's good. I hope, wait, didn't I end up turning it on? I did.
You did.
Okay. Phew.
After my comment, you turned it on.
Yes, that's when I was like, oh, I wish I had a recording. That was like a great quote about where the industry is going. So appreciate that. Yeah. Any other feedback or things we should be focusing on? Do you feel like we're focusing on the things that you need? Is that helpful? Is there something we're missing?
I think this pipeline thing is going to be key. And then just being able to get the word out to the customers, so they're not just, they're sometimes when they hear it from us talking about this, they don't believe us. They just think we're in there trying to sell them up a bill of goods and pad the bill. So, and I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody else, it's contractor wise, but
I totally
that's
agree.
probably the biggest thing that we come up against. Now, a lot of our recent things have come directly from Excel's website in the Denver rebate.
Mm-hmm.
So That's where we don't have so much problem there, but I've tried to train the service guys to start putting this out with the customers that these are the changes that are getting ready to happen. And you want to do it before, sooner rather than later, because costs are just skyrocketing. I just saw what the price increases are from 3 different manufacturers yesterday, and they're pretty hefty. As high as 21%, mediums about 13%. So that's kind of where everything's at. But that's the pipeline thing, I think, is a very big interest that we have in our company with this whole setup. So
Awesome. So one other tool, let me ask you this too, that were requested, EVC got hired by the Colorado Energy Office to interview the utilities, their contractors, distributors, and manufacturers about what the barriers are for accelerating heat pump installs. And what would happen is I would start out the conversation and talk about all these things that are happening in the market that validated there is this energy transition happening, and it's happening fast, right? So I would be like, did you know that 52% of the utilities in the US have already made, these carbon-free electric grids by 2030 goals? So, and the 6 utilities that are delivering 91% energy in Colorado all have those same goals. And did you know that, like I think you mentioned earlier, Excel is at, or somebody did, is at 50% renewables this year. People think, oh no, gas, you can't remove gas and go to renewables. And I'm like, it's already done, you guys. Does everyone realize that Excel is already 50% of your energy is coming from wind and solar right now? And it's a business decision. This is not about the environment anymore. They're doing it because it's good for their bottom line, right? They're making more money. It's less expensive for them to produce energy that way. Like when you start saying those things, I think, to a homeowner and trust that they're smart, and you say, and then, so I have a whole bullet list that I did in that conversation. And literally the contractor said, can you put that in a 1-page flyer so that my salesperson can get into he's like, my salesperson can sell the heat pumps all day long, but they can't get the conversation to switch over without sounding like they're trying to just sell them something, right? And I've never heard of a heat pump before. But if you could say, here's what's happening with pricing, and here's what's happening with the utilities, you want to future-proof your home, like Bill said, right? You want to take advantage of being able to sell energy back to the grid and to get better pricing and, and be more, take advantage of those things. So is that something, I put that on the back burner, but literally every contractor is like, can you put that into a 1-pager? Because then it would have a third-party validation and have the links to Love Electric, and have the links to the Colorado Energy Office and Energy Efficiency Business Coalition. We're a neutral or company business. Is that something do you think that would be helpful for your team, for your sales team?
Yeah.
I think that's a now thing too, isn't it?
It's a now. So Patricia, put that on your list.
It's a now thing.
Well,
the bottom line is you guys are getting ready to change a whole bunch of air conditioners, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Oh, wow.
There's an opportunity
you
right there to
switch out your air conditioner.
Just switch it out and say, you know what, we can do this, and Yep.
Okay. So I will add, Adria, is that do you guys experience that as well?
I would love that. So thinking about that, I would add another line to the signature on our email that already has, links for Facebook and social media. And then it's got the link to the Excel rebate page. I would very easily add another line on there to include that. But I would also love some pre-made social media things that we could throw out once a month, or once every couple weeks, that are kind of like how to future-proof your home, or this is something to look at that's not salesy, but it's that tip, or what does it mean to you that Excel is going to be energy free, or 80% by 2030, like big letters, so that they can click on it and we can write a blog post or something that we can put out that is educational and not salesy, and link to it and share it even before the technicians get out there.
That is awesome. Yes, that's a great suggestion. By the way, one of the topics at our quarterly membership meeting that I want to record, and it's gonna be like 10 minutes, the director of the Excel rebate program is going to be delivering it. The number one question that the consumers are asking Excel right now is, do you have enough energy to electrify the grid?
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing that like you would be like, so they're basically saying, we don't trust you that you can do this, but you're telling us you're going to do it. And I feel like that would be like one of those, have it from Excel. We could edit it down and maybe take snippets out and have it be 3 minutes and like take the highlights. And then they could click on if they want to watch the whole thing. They have a whole hour presentation they created for that. So great. That's really great feedback. Okay, cool. Anything else you need and want or wish you had that I can add to our list? Like the now list.
I just want to say this has been an awesome meeting, guys. Thank you very much for your input. That's very, very helpful. This is great stuff, and we got a lot of work to do. So
yeah, but good practical things that if we can help those tools with you guys, that's what we want to do, you know. So
I have one
welcome.
more thought.
Yeah.
In terms of training and the green jobs, if there's some kind of certification that comes with that, that existing employees could go through, right? If it's just that video,
Right.
and then they get certified. I love to talk about the fact that we're, you know, manufacturer certified by everybody, and I would be very happy to include that, right? And get our current employees in it, and sign them up for, you know, maybe a little piece of it or something on how to talk about rebates. So maybe there's a little training that could be put together for that.
That's great feedback for those guys. Okay. Great. All right. Anything else? We'll give your day back to you.
Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome you guys. So, and I have your email address, so I'll send you my contact information too, and make sure that we connect the jobs pipeline people with you to get your feedback on what you're looking for in the jobs and the positions and whatnot. So very cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Super appreciate it.